I'm going to speak mostly about Hanukkah. You know, when it comes to Hanukkah, I'm sure you've heard a lot of speeches from your rabbis, and they speak about two miracles: the miracle of the oil and the miracle of the war. The miracle of the oil, we all know, when the Hashmonaim came into the temple, the Bet HaMikdash, and they found only one jug of oil with the stamp of the Kohen Gadol that was pure. It was not tameh, and it was supposed to be for one night, and it lasted for 8 nights. That's the miracle of the oil. There's also a miracle of the war. After all, we're talking about 5 brothers and a father who died a year later, and they were able to fight battle after battle until they chased out the Greeks. We're talking about not just a small nation, the Greeks. There was a huge empire, and they were able to chase them out. That's a miracle. Perhaps even it's a greater miracle. Yeah. And what happened then? It was a greater miracle, but when it comes to making make the beracha on the lighting of the candle. The lighting of the candle symbolizes, right? It symbolizes what? The fact that there was a miracle of the oil. Well, why don't we make a beracha on the fact that they won the war? Don't you think that's a very important beracha to make? After all, it was a huge miracle. But we don't. We don't make a beracha on the miracle of the war, only on the miracle of the oil. Why is that? Well, you know, when we talk about this, we see something very interesting here. The Gemara in Berachot says, if a person passes by a certain place where Hashem performed a miracle to our ancestors, you should recite a blessing. Baruch she'asa nisim la'avotenu b'makom hazeh. Blessed be HaKadosh Baruch Hu, who performed a miracle to our ancestors in this spot. And of course, the Gemara gives examples. For example, the Red Sea. If you pass by the Red Sea at the spot where the Bnei Israel crossed the sea, and being that Kadosh Baruch Hu split the sea and they went on dry land, that is a very big miracle. Suppose if we pass by there, we're supposed to say Baruch she'asa nisim la'avotenu b'makom hazeh. Or, for example, if you pass by Yericho or the walls of Yericho, and you know the walls of Yericho, you know what happened with Yehoshua when they wanted to go inside Yericho to fight them, and instead of breaching the wall themselves, they had to go around it every day, then 7 times the seventh day, and then all of a sudden the walls collapsed. A miracle. I give another example again with the splitting of the Jordan River. Now, what all these miracles have in common? We're supposed to make that beracha, but they have one thing in common. They are miracles that are unnatural. They're not natural. It's something which is beyond the teva. After all, no one can possibly just go around the walls and then after that the walls collapse. Only HaKadosh Baruch Hu can do that. Who can just split the sea? Oh, I can do that. So we make a beracha on something that is unnatural. This is perhaps why The Hachamim instituted the beracha on the miracle of the oil because that is something that is not natural. It is not the teva of oil that supposed to last for one night to last for 8 nights. It's just not. It's against teva. You and I or no one can replicate such a thing. A war, winning the war, and maybe a chance in a million, but there is that chance. It's possible. Look at Yosef Tzaddik. Yosef Tzaddik was a slave, a prisoner in a dungeon, right? And he wrote of a person come, but it could happen. And it did. It happened. Now there's a midrash that says that when Yosef Tzaddik was coming back from Egypt with the coffin of his father, with his whole entourage, about turn, and he stopped by the pit where he was thrown by his brothers. And he said, Baruch she'asali nes b'makom hazeh. He made the beracha. It was a nes there for him. The question is, why he made the beracha for that one, but he did not make a beracha for the fact, for the miracle that he was a slave and he became the viceroy of Egypt? That's a miracle too. The answer is the miracle of the pit was unnatural. There was no water in the pit. But the Midrash says what happened there. There was Nahashim ve'akravim, snakes and scorpions. The nature of a snake and a scorpion is to bite. But they didn't bite him. That was against nature. Something that is unnatural. This is why he made the beracha on that. And this is why we make the beracha on the oil, because that was something that was unnatural. Rabotai, perhaps there's another moral, perhaps, reason. Look, we are a peaceful nation. We are supposed to be a model nation. Mamlechet Kohanim V'Goy Kadosh. Lights. I can celebrate the oil with lights. Now, how are you going to celebrate the war? What thing would be something symbolic for the war? Okay, candles are symbolic for the lights. Now you would say, well, you know what? Perhaps we should have hang on the walls some swords and arrows and maybe make a beracha on that. That doesn't make any sense, does it? Light represents life, joy, and happiness. Peace. We are a peaceful nation. That's something that we should really adhere to. We want to embrace things that are joyful, things that show what we are. We are a nation of ethics and morals. That's the lights. On the other hand, swords and arrows are different. Those represent death. They represent sadness and darkness. We are not that kind of people. We are people of the what light symbolizes. Kiddush Hashem. I heard once great man, a gadol ador, and Nazim between I think Tisha B'av and Rosh Chodesh Elul, they go, they go to the mountains. So he was in a hotel. Couldn't have a direct call. So he calls the front desk and he asks to be connected by great. That. I don't know if you heard about that story about Mr. Werdiger. Mr. Werdiger, who's a chairman of the Aguda Israel of America, but he's also a wealthy man. He has this big company there. And there was this South Korean girl that came and she fit the job and she was hired. And she was there for a while. One day, the the South Korea ambassador to the United Nations, he calls Mr. Werdiger, says, "I would like to see you." He says, "What about?" He's talking about. What about? No, I'll tell you when I'm there. So he comes in. I know Mr. Werdiger doesn't know anything about what reason he's there. He says, my daughter is working here, and my daughter was telling me about your place. He says, I can hardly believe it. She tells me every day at 1:30 exactly in the afternoon, all the men, they go to a special place, a special room, and they pray together. What a beautiful thing, in nice and calm way. Certain time, everyone leaves. Whether they're Jews or not Jews, everyone takes off for the Sabbath, which is a holy day for you. And people come to ask, for charity, for very different causes. And every time they go out with a check in a nice way, they're treated with respect. And most of all, my daughter was treated with the most and the utmost respect. So he takes out a check. And this guy is, of course, a very wealthy man. And he says to Mr. Werdiger, I know my daughter was working for whatever, a year or whatever, and I want to reimburse all the earnings that she got. I want to reimburse you. And he says, no way. We'll never accept such a thing. She worked, she earned her salary, she keeps it. And he says to him, let me tell you something. He says, after my daughter told me about these things, he says, I have the right to vote at the United Nations. And on 3 occasions, I abstained. And the resolution we of the war. But there's another miracle not emphasized enough. Or if you take a good history book, you'll see that it is emphasized in detail. Why no one talks about the miracle of the restoration of the oral law. What does that mean? Now we know in our religion we have two Torot. Torah Shebe'al Peh, that is the oral law that Hashem told Moshe Rabbeinu, orally, explaining every single mitzvah, amplifying and expounding on it. And that went from there to Yoshua, the Zekenim, all the way down to the days of the Gemara, and the Gemara, they wrote it down. The Gemara is our Torah Shebe'al Peh. Torah Shebichtav, without Torah Shebe'al Peh, it's not good enough. No, not good enough. Mitzvah tefillin. והיו לאות על ידיך, ותוטפות בין עיניך. That's it. Something that's going to be a sign on your arm and on your head. What is it? What is that something? Is it a box? Is it round? Is it black, white? Does it have anything inside it? And what's inside it? That's the Torah doesn't tell us that. It's all in the Gemara. The Torah doesn't enumerate the 39 melachot on Shabbat. Doesn't. The oral law tells us that. It's very important. So we had actually the oral law was being story from the Tzaddukim and from the Hellenists. The Tzaddukim were a group of Jews, and I must say, fairly large. And the Tzaddukim were not just plain people; they were mostly and they were with the government. They were really respected by the Greek government. And they were against the oral law because the Tzaddukim did not believe in the oral. They only believed what in the Torah Shebichtav, only the letter of the law. What does that mean, the letter of the law? That means there's no Hanukkah. It doesn't say anything in the Sefer Torah about Hanukkah. It doesn't mention it. There's no Hanukkah. What's Hanukkah? Hanukkah holiday? Never heard of it. The Hachamim? Oh, we don't believe in the Hachamim. We believe only when it's written down. Shabbat. It's not really 29 melachot. No. The Torah says, don't light fire on Shabbat. A couple of things, that's it. That's not our religion. And they were getting thousands and thousands of people that were on their side. This is what it is. It's amazing. That was a tremendous threat against the oral law. But there was another threat. And it's from the Hellenists. Now you have to realize what's happened there. Hanukkah, the story of Hanukkah happened like maybe a couple 150 years at least after the Greeks then conquered the Persian Empire. Before the Greeks, there was a Persian Empire. Then you had Alexander the Great from Macedonia who came with his army, and they defeated the Persians, and they took all their land, a huge amount of land. And of course, Judea at the time was part of that, so it went under the Greeks. When Alexander died, he was a young man at the time, perhaps 33 or so. So there were the two big generals divided the land. And there was those Greeks from Egypt and the east side, and the west side, and the Syrian, they call them the Seleucids, who took everything from the east. So initially, Judea fell under what we call the Ptolemies, Talmai HaMelech, as the Gemara says, and they were more or less tolerant. They did not bother the Jews. They did not make any gezerot. But because they were tolerant, we're talking about a significant amount of time. They may have been tolerant towards the religion, but they were pushing with persuasion, with economic benefits. Oh, if you follow us, you can be a government official, you can make a lot of money, you can have good salary, good job, good positions. Little by little, it took. And they had this thing. We want all our land, whoever lives here, they should have one culture, one language, one thing, everything is exactly the same. They didn't want, well, this land has this religion, this, that. They don't want that. Of course. So still, there were many Jews that little by little, they started to adopt the Greek culture, literature, and they had gymnasiums, we had competitions with men that were competing, with no clothes on, and so on and so forth. This is all against the basic rules of our religion. But there were slowly and surely more and more Jews adopting that. That was a threat also. It was a threat to the entire religion, period. Just think for a minute. If the Hashmonaim had not come into the picture, I have a powerful, huge group of Sadukim that were against our religion. I have a large group of Hellenists who also were adopting the Greek religion. If everything had stayed the same, I don't know what would have happened. If the Hashmon did not come, Baruch Hashem, HaKadosh Baruch Hu brought them in. The Hashmonaim fought valiantly and brilliantly for the cause of the oral law, for the cause of Torah shebichtav. They restored the Torah shebichtav. Ihziru atara leoshna. Baruch Hashem, they came into the picture. Could have been really a horrible thing if that thing just continued. There was no Hashmonaim and no Gezerot, no nothing, and this kept on with persuasion, economic growth, and all that. Who knows what would have happened at the end? Slowly and slowly, the Jewish religion will diminish. That was the miracle of the oral law. That's also a miracle. The Hashmonaim, aside from physically restoring the independence of the Jewish nation, they also spiritually restored our religion back to what it was before. And this is one thing that also we should really celebrate, should be happy about, because without that, it could have been, who knows, a big disaster. Baruch Hashem, that the Torah stayed. Torah shebichtav and Torah sheba'al peh, both of them stayed until today. Yirason that we should always keep and Be'ezrat Hashem, we all do that. We'll be zoche to be. Please, if you can help this station to keep up, try our SLC office of a beautiful hall that will accommodate any simcha that you have with a wedding. So, Shavua Tov, Rosh Chodesh Tov, Chanukah Sameach.